Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're taking a look at the remarkable work of Gerda Taro, the first female photojournalist to be killed in combat. Taro was born Gerda Pohorila to a Jewish family in Stuttgart, Germany in 1910. After receiving her education at a prestigious girls' school, Taro became involved in left-wing political organizing in response to the rising fascism and anti-Semitism of 1930s Germany. In 1933, she was arrested for distributing anti-Nazi leaflets and fled to Paris. It was while living on the margins in Paris that Taro met a young and ambitious photographer named André Friedman. Like Taro, Friedman had come to France to escape the rising authoritarianism and anti-Semitism of his home country of Hungary. The two began a romantic relationship and a professional collaboration. Friedman instructed Taro in the art of photography, and Taro wrote captions for Friedman's photos and helped him with self-promotion. At the time, Taro was still going by her birth name of Gerda Pohorila, and she worried that her and Friedman's last names immediately marked them out as Jewish immigrants, holding them back in the prejudiced society of their time. So together they changed their names. Gerda Pohorila became Gerda Taro, and André Friedman became Robert Capa, a name he selected because he thought it sounded like the name of a rich and successful American. By 1936, Taro had become an accredited member of the press, and with her and Capa's careers on the rise, they traveled together to Spain to chronicle the resistance to Francisco Franco's attempted fascist takeover of Spain's democratically elected government. The couple arrived in Barcelona 2.5 weeks after the war began. In one of their first assignments, Taro took her iconic photo of a young woman wearing heels, crouched on the beach and aiming a pistol during training for the Spanish socialist militia. The juxtaposition of the woman's fashionable heels with her strong military posture produced a striking image of feminine resistance, an ordinary woman called to perform extraordinary acts of courage. But Taro was no less fearless than the subjects she captured. Following Capa's motto that if a picture wasn't good, it meant the photographer hadn't gotten close enough, Taro hurled herself right into the midst of the action. Though she was only 26 years old, she made solo excursions without Capa deep into the heart of the conflict. Taro took many stirring photos of the civilians who had to bear the devastation of war, and of the military organizational structure that sustained it. But for many commentators, her most stirring images are her strikingly direct combat photos. In July 1937, as the Republican Army mounted its largest offensive against fascist forces, Taro was there in the trenches to bear witness. But tragically, on July 26th, Taro was crushed by an out-of-control tank during a retreat. She died the following day due to her injuries. When the news reached Capa, he was devastated by the loss of his artistic and romantic soulmate, blaming himself both for introducing Taro to combat reporting and for not being there when she died. As the Nazis advanced, Capa fled France in 1939, eventually making it to the United States. Already acclaimed for his reporting of the Spanish Civil War, Capa would go on to document D-Day, taking several of the most iconic photographs of the monumental battle. Though tragically, Capa too would die in the fields. In 1954, while covering France's war to maintain colonial control over Vietnam, Capa stepped on a landmine and was killed. Today, he is often regarded as the greatest war photographer of all time. Taro, though held up as a martyr in the struggle against fascism at the time of her death, was largely forgotten as the Spanish Civil War faded into history. But in 2007, a suitcase that authorities had seized from Capa in 1939 mysteriously resurfaced in Mexico. Inside was a cache of 4,500 negatives by Capa, Taro, and their friend David Seymour, known as Chim. With the evidence of the negatives, historians learned that some of the photos originally attributed to Capa had actually been taken by Taro. More importantly, as the full scope of Taro's work was explored, she was restored to a rightful place in the history of photography. Still, I think Taro's work deserves much wider recognition. Her photos are in full possession of the power that characterizes Capa's work. I find them at once to be freighted with the monumentality of the events they capture and attuned to the fragile humanity of the people caught up in those events. Taro is as capable of capturing moments of harrowing courage as she is of capturing moments of profoundly fatigued sorrow. If there is a revelation from Taro's work, it's a simple one, but one that nonetheless bears constant repetition. Within the churning and tumultuous waves of history are ordinary people, whose joys and sorrows, fears and hopes, can all be snuffed out in the blink of an eye. Thanks so much for joining me on this one. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something new. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.